Welcome to another Irish craft beer review here on the 11pm Some Work podcast exclusively on YouTube. For this episode we're going to be having a look at one of Ireland's best loved craft breweries, Galway Bay, and their double IPA of Foam and Fury. Before we talk about Foam and Fury, let's get a little bit of background info going out there about the double IPA / Imperial IPA market in Ireland. As it stands today, there's only two Imperial IPAs that are brewed as regular beers on the Irish market. The first, of course, is Galway Bay's of Foam and Fury, and the other American IPA or double IPA that's available on the market is the one by O'Hara's. The only other sort of regular or Imperial or double IPA that's sold in the Irish market is Brewdog's Hardcore IPA, so it's quite slim pickings for what we have. In the last couple of months, of course, we've had Bjór Number 1, which was a specially commissioned beer by members of Bjór who actually, through crowdfunding, supported in putting together a beer with Sam Black and his Blacks of Kinsale Brewery, and that beer was just completely overwhelming. And while it was available in some craft beer pubs, available on tap in a very limited amount, and Bjór members did have bottles that they were kind enough to share around with other people who weren't involved in creating the crowdfunding, and I was lucky enough to get one of them, as were many others, from very, very kind and giving members. It isn't a beer that is in regular sort of circulation, so there is only literally about 3 double IPAs that are actually available in Ireland. Now, as I said, the best loved of these is actually Galway Bay's of Foam and Fury. Now, this has a huge amount of fans, and when it went out into the pubs, when I say pubs, I mean the Galway Bay pubs, so that being like Against the Grain, Brewdog, Black Sheep, and a couple others around the country as well. This got like great applause and great aplomb, and it really is a great tribute to them, like in terms of like how good this beer is. I think it's actually held up quite well. You put it next to Hardcore IPA. Hardcore IPA is a very, very different beer, and I would say that O'Hara's double IPA, while it is a very, very nice beer and very, very drinkable, I don't think it actually stacks up in the weight class against this. Again, that's not making a slight against that beer. That beer is fantastic. I think it has its own category, but I think it's more like an incredibly strong American style IPA rather than a double IPA. And again, great beer if you haven't tried it, checked it out. So let's talk a little bit more about this beer. This beer is 8.5% ABV, so okay, look, you're not going to be knocking back pints of this, and you really aren't going to be. You're an incredibly brave person, or you're incredibly stupid. One or the other, take your pick which. But I love the hop choices that are actually in this. So we've got Galena, Chinook, Pacific Grade and Simcoe. Pacific Jade and Simcoe. You know, Pacific Jade is one of those, again, it's one of those hops from out in the Kiwi area that I really, really dig. And I absolutely love it. I think it's a fantastic hop to use. I love the aroma off it, and I tend to have like a bit of a stock of this myself going on. And I've shared this stock with other people as well who seem to like it. Simcoe, I have a huge affinity for Simcoe. I love that thick piney resin that it actually gives to beers. And again, a lot of Brewdog beers that I like, one of their base hops is always going to be Simcoe. I mean, those guys are Simcoe addicts. And I think it's great because it is one of those ones I like. Chinook is one of those great sort of hops that has a great alpha acid level in it, so it's great for getting bitterness into beer when you need to. Fantastic hop, and I think it's beautiful in that respect. Galena is just, again, another one of those hops that I think just goes well, and it's a lovely combination of them, and they use all these hops and they dry hop the heck out of it as well, so it's really over the top. So let's have a look what this looks like. Okay, so I've got my actually trusty All Ireland Craft Beer Fest glass from last year. I'm really glad I got one of these. I wasn't able to go because I was ill, so my parents actually picked me up one of these. That's right, my parents go to these things as well, so it's not just us young hipsters who actually go to craft beer things. So let's have a look. And the colour on this, I think, is probably one of its best attributes. And it's one of those beers I think that pours really, really well. So as you can see there, like the colour of it is beautiful. It's this lovely, deep, caramelly colour. And you know what it kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of that kind of caramel that you get when you're actually going to make it yourself for the first time, just when things start to get really gnarly, before they get really dark. Just that point when you're like, there's the colour turning, great, I know I'm at that point. So it's beautiful, and it kind of has that as well. If you've ever had like a blood orange juice as well, you kind of get that, sometimes that bit of a gnarly colour going on. Like the aroma you just get of it, it's just like sticking your nose in, and you're just smelling the Pacific Rim region. Now I know you might laugh at that Rim region. Yeah, he made it funny. But it really does have that great smell off it. And you get kind of that, like, that, again, that dark blood orangey type of thing going on. Something that I'm very, 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 very big fan of, and I'd like to see more of it in beers. But again, that's pushing with some of my own preferences. Now, in terms of your first taste is a big, big taste off this. Definitely lots of caramel, and really, really strong as well. It is boozy, and but not like so boozy. You're just like, oh, I need to take this really easy. Again, it's one of the things I think makes it very drinkable. So you've got like that very fruity sort of dark reddy berry thing going on, blood orange, caramel. I think the mouth coating that you have on it is beautiful. I think the bittering as well is the nice surprise and sort of the thing that lingers around the place. And you can still get it. Carbonation level in it is great. There's just that little bit of hint of sweetness that goes on there, just in sort of the middle of your palate. But it's not so sweet that it feels cloy, or that it feels like it's being antagonistic with the upfront big taste that you get and the bittering in the back. I think it's probably akin to, and when you get that perfect sweet and sour sauce from the Chinese, and it's not a nuclear red colour, but it's kind of that darkish reddy colour, and you can definitely get that vinegary thing going on, that little bit of sweetness, that vinegar, and it just leaves you that lovely sort of taste in your mouth. Because you can also get that little sort of hint of either orange or the pineapple that they got in as well. That's exactly what this is like, and it's in a beer, and I think it's a really, really nice drinker as well. It's one of those things that, like, you pour it out of a glass, take it out of the fridge, let it sit around for a while, let it sort of bring itself up to temperature a bit again, because that's always when beers start to open up to you. They start to reveal their aromas. The cold is no longer masking them. Cold is no longer masking some of the tastes as well, where it's killing it off. And again, it's a bit like sitting down and warming up a conversation with someone that you've just met. I'm sorry to use that as an analogy. Other people know where that comes from, but I think it's very, very true of the beer in terms of getting to know your beer, getting to know what you're drinking. And this beer just like keeps on giving, and it just keeps getting better as you sit over it. And it's extremely drinkable. That's one of the things I would say is probably a bit of an ass kicker with this, is that it is an extremely drinkable double IPA. But I think that what stops it from being something which you just sit there and knock back like a session beer is that big heavy mouth taste that you get first up off the front. And you have it there, and it starts mellowing itself backwards, and it's great. And that's why I think it's a great beer, that like as you drink more and more of it, it just gets better and better and better. And if you see this in a Galway Bay pub, whether it's Brewdog Against the Grain, Alfie Burns, Black Sheep Inn, or the ones in Galway, I can never remember the name of them because I've never been to them. Even though they keep getting thrown at me every so often. People's like, hey, we should do a road trip and we should hit these on the way as well as go to the brewery. Still have to arrange a trip to the brewery for myself so I can actually go and meet the guys and meet Chris and Jason and all the rest of them. But if you see it in one of the pubs and it's on, go and have a pint of it. As good as this is in a bottle, and I have to say, I have to big a huge thanks to Mick Bradley from Bradley's Off License in Cork, who was actually able to help me with this. If you want to put your hands on beers from Bradley's, just as a curiosity, podcast is the 5% discount code that you can use when you go up onto bradleysofflicense.ie. Yes, that was a bit of a shameless plug, but you know what? Mick has been good enough to sort of help sponsor the podcast and help me like pay some of those bills for it as a result, which is great. But he was able to hook me up with a bottle of this because I've been constantly complaining that I can never find a bottle of this, and I've been looking for it for one of the other video series that I'm doing, which is food and beer. I'm not saying what that is yet because that's still being worked out. But he was able to hook me up with a bottle or two of this, put his hands on them for me, and then I was able to get them shipped up to me with a whole lot of other ones as well, which is really great. So I have to say big thanks to Mick for helping me out because I was really, really struggling to put my hands on a bottle of it. Get every other bloody Galway Bay beer but this, and that is the one thing I will say in criticism of this in terms of availability. The availability for this in bottle sucks. There's something that I hope Galway Bay actually rectify. I understand that it's a pretty complex beer to get put together and to cut out there, so I totally appreciate that. But when I go looking for this and I can't find it, it's super annoying because it is a really, really lovely beer, and then that sort of drives me. And Galway Bay should pay attention to this. If I can't put my hands on this, they are driving me to go and buy Hardcore IPA by Brewdog. That's the simple fact of this. If I want a double IPA in this country, I'm not going to go and buy the O'Hara's one, because I would just treat that like a very, very nice, strong, hoppy, American style IPA, like a really good strong one, okay? And again, I think you have to treat it like that. But if I want a double IPA, it's this or it's Hardcore IPA. If I can't find this, and very often I really can't find it, I'm buying Hardcore IPA, simple as that. And that's money which is not going into an Irish producer, into Irish sales, it's going to a Scottish producer. As much as I love James and Martin's beers, and I'm a huge fan of Brewdog, I prefer to be putting the money into an Irish producer's pocket. Again, buy Irish, pretty important. And again, it's supporting the Irish craft beer industry, which needs to grow. And as more people are able to buy it and the beers are available, it just makes more sense. It puts money in the economy, puts jobs in the economy, and all the rest of that. And I'm going to stand down off my orange crate now off that. So anyway, if you come across this beer in a bottle, go and buy it. Now, forewarned, this beer isn't going to be cheap. I think this worked out as like €6, €7 in a bottle. Again, very, very worth it. Again, because money is going into the Irish economy, into a craft beer. So I'd suggest you go and check it out. If you've tried out this beer, I would love to know your thoughts about it. If you think there's better double IPAs out there, I certainly want to know about it, especially if they're in Ireland and they're available. I really want to know about it. And you can leave a comment in the comment section down below. Remember, if you have enjoyed this video, remember to thumbs up, rate, review and subscribe from up there. Cheers.